I'm going to come into a still point for a few moments, a couple of minutes actually, where we're not doing much other than just centering our awareness in preparation for the practice. So I think we probably need a bit of grounding. So we just need to come into the body, out of the head. Plans, projects, preoccupations to one side. Just almost as if your mind was sinking down through the head, through the neck, through the chest, along the spine. Your mind's attention goes down to the lower part of the body and settles somewhere around the pelvis and the contact with the ground. I want to let our breath come into the foreground of our attention in a very relaxed way, but as clearly as possible. So feeling and getting a sense of the breath, in breath and the out breath, but not trying to breathe in any particular way. And each out breath is another step towards letting go of whatever is going on the mental level, by way of thoughts turning themselves over, preoccupations, plans. Just let that fade gradually. Connecting into the breath through the body. So a sense of expanding into the space that you're sitting in through the breath. Awareness of how you are in general, without picking up the threads of any particular aspect of your experience. So we're going to attempt during the practice, encourage you to stay with your immediate experience, sensation experience today. All those different sensations in the body through movement. So different kinds of sensations can be the focus of the practice as much as possible. And shift back to my position. Okay, now I'd like you to gather your knees in so that your knees come in closer together and your feet go out to the side slightly. Setting up what we tend to talk about as the box pose. And don't overdo that, so you don't want too tight an arrangement of the legs, because as we come into forward bending, if you've got restriction in the gluteal muscles, the pelvic muscles, you just find it too intense. So more or less having the legs sort of moving out of the hips in a straight line as much as you can, and lowering the knees down. Okay. Now interlocking the fingers nice and closely together at the roots of the fingers. You're going to expand your hands forwards, palms of the hands forwards in line with the chest. And then draw the hands upwards, one smooth movement to the sky. Keeping the kidneys neither too far into the body nor falling back, so the lower back is not collapsing and not overemphasized. Shoulder blades relaxed. Lengthening up, but just gently lengthening up. We're only just starting the practice, so there's no need to use full strength and full power. So move into the practice very gently, lengthening through the tissues of the body. the weight of the pelvis is going to be the anchor. Another focus for the practice, letting the weight of the pelvis drop to the ground. And on the in-breath and then the next out-breath, we're going to rotate the body to the right side. So just letting the strength of the back do the twisting itself. Taking the fingertips towards the floor, one in front, one behind. And gently turn the head to the side. Okay, just a gentle twist. Again, lengthening through the body, but dropping the weight of the pelvis down towards the floor. Breathing there with an awareness of the breath, with an awareness of where the weight is falling down towards the pelvis. And then inhaling, lifting the arms up above the head, one smooth movement, turning to the other side, rotating to the other side, I should say. And then left hand, right hand on the front, left hand to the back, fingertips. Just to help you gently lift up through the spine again, broadening through the chest. And once again, just making sure that we're not lifting one side of the pelvis off of the ground or the other. So we're keeping the weight of the pelvis grounded and anchored. And that allows the spine to find its way up through the breath. Turning the head to where you want to turn it. You can look forwards, sideways, backwards, as you like. Inhaling, turning towards the center again and interlocking the fingers above the head. Nice and closely at the roots of the fingers, palms of the hands looking upwards. And then we're going to start to extend out of the trunk from the pelvis, lengthening forwards, tipping forwards, slowly, until at some point, placing the hands down on the floor in front of you, in line with the shoulders. Okay. Before dropping the head down, take another in-breath and just re-clarify, lengthening through the spine again towards the crown of the head. So I'm quite fond of this re-clarifying and lengthening again before coming fully into this pose. And then you're going to start to allow the weight of gravity, draw the trunk and the head forwards. Smooth movement down and find a point where you can rest something on the floor. So either hands or the forearms. If you're a bit more practiced and very flexible, you can just rest the head all the way down. Yeah. Breathing with an awareness of the breath in towards the pelvic region. So you're encouraging your breath to come down lower and lower into the body to meet the point that's feeling most stretched. A few more breaths here. And then we're going to press ourselves up gently with the hands, head coming up and the spine following, so the spine is long. Once you're here, you can open the distance between your knees again. So take your knees wide back into something that looks like Sukhasana, the easy pose. Okay, so knees wide as opposed to knees gathered in and the feet come closer together. You can use a block if you want to sit up more. Interlock your fingers again and expand the hands forwards and up. One smooth movement. Okay. One smooth movement up. It's just to re-emphasize again, lengthening through the spine. It's all important. Axial extension through the spine. And then maintaining that length, you're going to extend out to the right side, taking your right hand down. Okay. Left arm comes up. Weighting down through both sides of the hip, both sides of the pelvis. And then we might want to walk the hand further out, and it depends a bit what's going on with the pelvis. Think about still lengthening, even as you're allowing your body to bend to the right side. Okay. Looking where you want to look, you can look up to the hand, you can look out to the front, you can look down to the floor. Just maintain a sense of clarity around the breath so that you're aware of the breath throughout the practice today. Drawing the breath a bit more towards the left side of the body, so the left side will expand quite a bit more than the right side, quite naturally. So just encourage that breath into the left side of the body, keeping the kidneys in, spine lengthening. Inhaling on a smooth movement, come up again. Interlocking the fingers once again. Smooth movement up, no hesitation in between one side and the other. Keeping the spine long, you're going to tip towards the other side, hand down, left hand down, right hand above. Grounding the pelvis again as before. Now you walk your hand out to the extent that you feel you need to or you want to engage a sense of stretching through the right side of the body. Be careful not to go too deeply, too quickly into this set of postures, because we're going to do quite a bit more of this today. And it's one of those areas where you can overwork and not know it till the following day. So watch the feedback from your spine and from the soft tissues, lower ribs. So we're lengthening out of the hip, through the arm, through the shoulder, as well as allowing the lateral bend to take place, which involves twisting of the spine. Okay, inhaling, coming up again. Engage the fingers one more time in the same way, extending up. We do the same thing again, taking the hand out to the right side. You might find you've got a little bit more space to move this time. Just ensure you're not lifting the pelvis off the floor, so ground the pelvis as much as you can, both sides. Extending, opening the side of the body, encouraging the breath into the left side of the body. Again, you can look up as you wish, look forwards, look down. And if you want, you can even rest the left hand behind the back of the head. That's another option if you don't want to have the head extended. Not always much easier, but somewhat different. Inhale, up you come. This time, one smooth transition to the other side without interlocking the fingers. So you come up again and over. Okay, inhaling and come up to the center for a moment. Interlock the fingers once again. Extending the palms forwards, drawing the arms up, one smooth movement. And then let the arms come down and out to the side. One wide movement. Now extend your legs forwards and out to the side. Taking your feet about 3/4 of the width that you can actually go. So we sometimes talk about this as a sub-maximal position. Okay, so not maximal. Interlocking the fingers again and reaching the hands above the head, one smooth movement. So this time we're going to engage the thighs a little to keep the backs of the knees towards the floor, extending through the feet. There will be a tendency for the low back to roll back on the pelvis. Okay, so keep the kidneys in, and then as you exhale, bring the right hand to the floor to the right side. So it's the same movement but a different base. Extending up and through the left arm, or bringing in the left hand to the back of the head if you want. But just make a mental note, so just feel how that is different to the posture you just did. Extending through the legs, lateral bending. The more you work to engage the legs, the more you should find the spine allows you to release more to the side. So the legs and the upper body work together. Mindful of what's going on within the body. So keeping the awareness around spine, neck, pelvis. Axial extension. Inhale, come all the way over now to the other side. These practices work quite quickly, quite deeply, especially to the lumbar spine area. Again, engaging the legs, extending through the feet. Again, the head position can be where you want it to be, looking up, looking forwards, looking down. Okay, on the in-breath, come back to the center. Pause there for a moment with the fingertips behind the shoulders, just to support you so that you can lift the chest, raise the chest rather, extend through the spine, and keep extending through the legs for a moment. I'm going to come back to this later on as well. You're going to rotate the trunk towards the right leg as if the heart center were lining itself up with the knee, yeah, in terms of a line. So that's the intention. You won't necessarily find your heart aligning itself with the knee, but the intention is to draw the trunk around so the heart's there. Okay. Right hand supporting, left arm extending up. On the exhale, you're going to reach out, reach forwards towards the foot, or take the hand on the floor. Okay. Now you can keep the right hand around to the side a bit more if you want to. You can bring it forwards towards the foot, so both hands either side of the ankle. So keep on emphasizing on the in-breath, a sense of drawing through the spinal column to lengthen. And on the exhale, rotating gently towards, so you're bringing the heart more and more towards the knee. Okay, so inhale, lengthen, exhale, rotate. Awareness in both of the legs extending. Okay, breathing in. As you breathe in, you draw the body up. You're going to rotate to the other side. One smooth movement, we come to the other side. Again, lengthening out. On the in-breath, on the out-breath, turning the body gently towards the leg, rotating to the left. So these movements will be quite subtle. Okay, there won't be big, gross twists or lengthenings. So we're practiced enough here in this group to be able to already work at a more refined level in terms of adjusting the pose. Okay, so just work with smaller movements, but deliberate and aware movements. Inhaling and drawing the trunk up, keeping the spine long. And center again for a moment, taking the hands behind the back of the shoulders, fingertips on the floor again, just to support the lengthening of the spine for a moment. And then bring the feet in together. We're going to come around and change our position now onto all fours. just as a transition for coming into the downward facing dog. So taking the weight down onto the hands, grounding the bases of the fingers, spreading your fingers gently. So the wrists are lifting slightly out of the hand towards the elbows. Elbows lifting towards the shoulders. Tuck your toes under and lift the pelvis. One smooth movement, lengthening the knees. Keep the neck long and the head extending to the floor. Okay. And you're lifting from that grounded position of the hands down and the feet down. You're lifting the pelvis up. So there's a momentum of lift as well as grounding the feet and the hands. Engage the thighs. Keep awareness in the periphery of the body. So the hands and the feet, very consciously engaging those areas. Be aware of what's going on around the shoulder, base of the neck area. So if you find you're closing in, just put a bit more weight down to the outside edge of the hands. That will help you open the shoulders, just remind you to open the shoulders rather than closing them in. Okay. So emphasize putting the small finger side down a bit more firmly, if that's the case. Okay, looking forwards to the front of the mat, I'm going to walk forwards. Small steps. Hands together. We're going to go for a series of sun salutations from here, but from standing. So coming to standing. Here's where I have to be right the way back. Just come to a still point in standing for a moment with the arms lengthened out down by the sides of the legs, grounding the feet. Connect to the breath. Gazing forwards, slightly down, keeping the back of the neck long. Okay, next in breath carries the arms upwards, extending to the sky. On the out breath, keeping the spine long, folding forwards from the hips, hands down, and step your right foot back as far as you can. Okay, bringing the fingertips down and coming into the lunge, forward lunge, looking forwards. Shoulder blades back. Step back your front foot and bring yourself forwards into the 8-point pose, lengthening out on the floor, extending to the legs and lifting the spine, lifting the chest, looking forwards, Bodhiyoga-7. Next exhalation, tipping the chin in, head down, pressing up again, and into downward facing dog. Downward facing dog, we're going to step the right foot forwards and bring the left knee down, all the way back into lunge again. Back foot steps forwards, exhaling, folding into the legs. Inhaling, coming back to standing position, lengthening through the trunk, through the arms. Exhaling, arms come into the side of the body. Okay. Once again, on the next in breath, the arms are blown up by the breath, grounding the feet. Exhale, folding from the pelvis. Smooth movement. As the hands come down, the right foot steps back. And we come back again to the lunge pose. Stepping the front foot back. Releasing down to 8-point pose. From 8-point pose, coming through into Bodhiyoga-7. Keeping the elbows into the sides of the body. So really engage your legs here. So you help lift your spine, but through the engagement of your legs. Chin tucked in, exhale. Pushing into downward facing dog. Okay, looking forwards, we're going to step the left foot forwards. Back into lunge. Lunge, stepping forwards, folding into the legs. On the next in breath, all the way back to standing. Okay, on the out breath, we fold forwards again without pausing. Left foot back. Coming back into the lunge pose. This is the low lunge pose, not the high lunge pose. Stepping the foot back and to 8-point pose, keeping the elbows tracking in line with the shoulders, chest forwards, engage your legs firmly and lift the spine and lift the chest from that point. Exhale, tucking in and returning again to the downward facing dog pose. Grounding the hands. Okay, we're going to walk the feet forwards to the front of the mat this time. So from downward dog, walking forwards, keep the spine long, soft knees, come to standing, and step out to the side. Okay, so in my case, I've got the left foot turned out, right foot turned in. Okay. So it's all a bit more complicated to teach left and right when you're on a screen. It doesn't really matter, we're going to do both ways anyway. Okay, so making sure that your front foot is turned out, knee in line with the front foot. Keep your hip, so this hip drawn in as we come into the pose. So just make sure the hip doesn't pop out, which it tends to do by default. Just encourage that hip bit to be drawn back in again. Okay, we're going to bend the front knee, keeping the spine upright. So we're taking a fairly wide stance, almost as wide as we can go. Here we go. We're going to swing up the front arm. You're going to arch back slightly. So again, we're introducing a lateral bend, but it's more based from standing and it's gentler. Okay, so you can support the back hip with the hand if you want, just resting on there. But you can slide the hand down the leg. Some people prefer that version. We're reaching up. And then we're going to extend out now. Extend out, rest the elbow onto the thigh. We're coming into Shalamba Pashvatanasana. So we have the forearm resting on the thigh. Nice sense of alignment through the pose. So back leg active, engaging to the floor through the foot. Rotating the trunk gently around. So as if you're turning your heart center towards the chest very gently, but without throwing the kidneys out into the back of space. So keep the kidneys in. Bring up the opposite arm over the head, looking to the hand. Once you've arrived in the pose, just working to bring the awareness in a more refined way into the posture. What do you need to do to find the energy to sustain the pose? It might be more engagement, a bit less engagement of the muscles. It might be more engagement with the breath. That often is what sustains the pose. Keeping the elbow resting on the thigh, not collapsing down. So we're lifting out of the elbow, resting on the thigh. So we're inhabiting the whole posture. Okay, pressing down through your front foot now. Inhale and come up to the center, arms spreading out to the side. Turn your opposite foot, the back foot now, which was the front foot, in, opposite foot out. Okay, back hand resting on the hip or about to slide down the back of the leg. Bending your front knee, keeping the sense of alignment with the knee and the foot and the hip. Reaching up through the opposite arm. Again, we're arching back gently. It seems like arching back, but it's really a lateral bend. Looking up to the hand, or looking out to the side, whichever feels better for your neck. Watching again, awareness of the back hip, drawing in towards the socket rather than drawing outwards. Really important to not let that hip collapse out, because you lose quite a bit of energy from the pose. Also, it just doesn't feel right in most cases. Extend out and over without losing the length of the spine. This time the opposite forearm resting but not collapsing down onto the leg. So keep a lift out of the elbow. Extend up the opposite arm over the head, reaching out. Again, positioning your head in the place that feels best for the pose. So awareness through the back leg engaging to the foot. And then gently, gently rotating the trunk as if to turn the heart towards the sky. Energy goes through the front foot, front leg, to press you back up. Into wide stance with the hands and the feet. As if going into Bodhiyoga International. Now turn your opposite foot, so the foot that was turned out now turned in. In my case, it's the left side I'm going back to again. Keep the arms extending out to the side to encourage this breadth, lateral breadth through the trunk, through the shoulders. Okay. Extending out to the, well, in my case, it's the left side, might be your right side. Coming into Trikonasana, one smooth movement, hand onto the shin, drawing the opposite arm upwards, palm of the hand facing out. Again, positioning the head is up to you. We try and get a sense of the strength of the base of the pose through the legs and the pelvis. Okay. So the strength in the base of the pose is the most important aspect. To some extent, this is a lateral bend. And just encouraging the awareness to go within. So within the pose, but also just being aware of how you are based on the sensations arising in the posture. Okay, slightly unlock the front knee and press down through the foot and use the in-breath to carry you back up again. Okay, turning what was the outward foot now inwards and the opposite foot out. Maintain that sense of breadth because it takes a while to build up the activity in the pose. We're going to try and maintain that sense of breadth and length through the pose. And extend out now, one smooth movement to the other side, no hesitation. Come straight into the pose. Again, positioning the head in the same way that you did the other side. That's best. Broadening, rotating, lengthening. Pay attention to the base of the pose again, so the legs and the pelvis position. Legs active, feet pressing to the ground. Okay, unlocking your front leg, pressing through your foot, and on the in-breath, up we come. We're going to step all the way to the opposite edge of our mat. Just coming into the Tadasana position for a moment. Feet slightly apart, beneath the hips. Arms resting in a relaxed way down by the side of the legs and the body. Grounding the feet, lengthening the body gently. Okay, one, next in-breath, sweeping the arms upwards above the head. Exhaling, folding forwards. We're going to walk all the way back with our feet so we come back into downward facing dog one last time for this series. You have this interplay between specific awareness and broad awareness. We talk about this as global awareness, when we're just aware of the whole body and the breath, without being overly specific in terms of where we place the awareness. If you need a bit more clarity of intention, then be specific with your awareness. Just place the awareness in one part of the body, just to keep the mind focused in the practice. Okay, releasing down. So for what we're going to do next, I suggest coming side onto your mat, so you've got the length of the mat either side of you. You're going to come up into a kneeling position. In fact, it's a really good idea to do that, because you're going to extend the leg out to the side, and you're going to need something to give you a grip with the foot, otherwise it'll just slide across your floor. So let's say we're going to start with our right leg extended out to the side like that. Okay. So my left thigh is vertical to the floor, really vertical, not allowing the thigh to come in any way. And the other leg, if I can take the whole foot down on the floor, that's good, but if not, then keep the toes lifted, but the heel on the ground. Just make sure that the leg is coming out in a straight line to the side. Okay. So you're going to move into a lateral movement from here, which is a bit more intense than what we've done so far, but we're prepared for it now. So you can, with the opposite, we're going to go to the right side. The left hand can rest to the back of the head, or you can extend it up if you're a bit more practiced. Okay. The more you take the arm over, the more intense the pose. Or you can keep the hand resting on the hip. It's up to you. So try one of those three variations. Okay. So we're going to come into the pose, sliding the right hand along the front of the right leg to support. Keep the awareness in the base of the pose. The leg is active. And just feed your way into the pose to the extent at which you feel you can sustain it and not lose touch with the breath. Okay. So if the breath becomes labored, then come out of the pose a bit. Head position, looking up, looking out to the side, looking down. It's up to you. Wow, there's a certain intensity to it. Inhale, and let's come up. Change in position by having the hands on the floor. Okay. So once we're set up, we're going to enter the pose. One smooth movement all the way in the opposite side. Don't forget to engage the leg that's extended out. So bring the thigh muscles into the thigh bone. Lengthening as much as we're lengthening and bending. Shoulder blades moving away from the neck. Okay, inhaling up we come. Oh, there's a certain amount of drama in that pose. Okay, and we're just going to come into a still point for a moment, sitting onto the floor with the knees bent, or sitting onto the heels if you want to just come into Vajrasana for a moment. Hands resting on the thighs, gazing forwards and down. Just feeling the effects of the practice as we've done it so far in the body. How and where does the body feel different from when we started? Okay, I'd like you to come off of your feet now and sit down between the feet. Sorry, not between the feet. Let's start again. So you're going to bring your right foot out, right leg out to the side like this, as we did in the beginning. But bring your right heel in towards the groin. So you've got your left knee bent. Okay, so left foot and left heel coming towards the groin. And then we're going to turn to face the trunk of the bent leg side. So we're turning the heart center towards the left side. Sometimes people use a belt for this. I usually don't. Okay, it's a bit intense for me to use a belt. And we're going to extend the right arm. So we've got our trunk turned to the left side. Extend the right arm up whilst we keep looking towards the left side and around. Okay, we come into this almost sort of not looking at the foot. And we're going to come down and out of the pelvis, laterally bending towards the right side. And if we can, we bring the left hand up and over to maybe catch the foot. That's a bit more an advanced variation. Or otherwise, just rest a hand on the hip. Be careful not to overextend in this pose, okay? Because it's one that you can overextend in. And today you won't notice it, but tomorrow you will. So go in with the breath, go in with Mula Bandha engaged, okay? Perineal floor, drawing up gently. And let the breath do the work of allowing you or encouraging you to come more deeply into the pose. It's always a better idea to work with your breath in this. Exhalation's very good for releasing deeply into a pose. And keep the engagement through the legs. I'm sort of looking under the armpit of the left side. Yeah? Four more breaths on this side. Okay, and coming up carefully, easing up, keeping the engagement with the legs, the bandhas. Just pause for a moment. That's moving more into a more advanced lateral bend. It's not a beginner's lateral bend. Left leg extending out and the right heel coming in towards the groin. Yeah. Best to do all this on your yoga mat. Okay, so stay on your mat. Try not to slide off of it onto the floor. Okay, turning the trunk towards the right side, rotating. Extend the left arm up and around, and we're going to incline the body towards the left side, taking the, the inside of the foot. So left hand takes the inside of the foot, if you can. If you can't, just place the hand on the floor, okay? And the right hand on the hip to the back of the head, or extending over, which is certainly quite a bit more challenging. Yeah? And all the while, in the pose, we're both trying to ground the pelvis and gently rotate the trunk upwards, so the heart center's turning up gradually to the, look at the sky. Yeah? Head looking under the arm. If you feel you're collapsing too much into the bones at the top of the pelvis, just draw up a bit higher and try and lengthen more out of the pelvis. Okay, so if you're getting a sort of compression feeling between the sides of the body and the top of the hip, come up, lengthen a bit more. Okay, in breath, we're going to draw the body up, coming up slowly, really slowly. Don't rush out of this pose, or any pose that's like it actually. Just pause for a moment. And then we're going to come into the next posture. So I'm just going to shift my mat a little bit. So this is Triyan Mukha Kapala Paschimottanasana. So it's taken off of the extreme east stretch, as it's known. So if you're looking forwards on your mat, You're stretched out with your legs on the front of the mat. You're going to bring your left heel behind you, so the left heel comes towards the base of the coccyx, more or less, or the buttock. Okay. Or the toes come in towards the coccyx, maybe if not the heel. And a slight orientation of the body towards the extended leg. So the heart center turns towards the extended leg. Okay, I hope we'll explain that. So you've got the left knee taken out, so it's at a right angle. And the left foot, either the toes or the heel towards the buttocks behind you. Okay. Extend through your left arm on the out breath. You're going to lengthen forwards, either taking the hand to the floor or the hand on the foot. I tend to keep my right hand on the floor here to support the body because it's quite an intense pose to let go of the hands. Okay. And again, just gently encourage the lengthening out of your spine on the in-breath. So it's really the classical pose, forward bending pose with the legs extended forward, but we've got one leg tucked behind us. Dynamic changes because it's an asymmetrical pose here. And see if you can bring yourself into the pose more deeply without forcing yourself into the pose. Finding the limit within the posture and just staying there, not necessarily crossing over the line. Lifting up the head, and then the spine come up straight, lengthening. Tip over to your right side to lengthen your left leg out and bring your right foot behind you. Just encouraging exploration within these poses. Okay, you've got the basic shape, but then you've got a whole manner of series of refinements that you can make to adjust it to your body. Your body's going to need something different from my body. In terms of where you position the foot exactly. Finding, again, that length in the spine that we've been working on the whole session. Okay. Heart center turning towards the knee. Inhale and lengthen through the right arm and extend towards the leg. Taking the hands outside, both sides of the leg if you want, catching the inside of the left foot with the right hand if you want. Main thing is to keep the sense of lengthening, rotating of the spine here. Okay, inhaling, coming up with a spine that's lengthening. Tipping to the left, so release the right leg for a moment. Okay, I'd like you to come onto all fours now. I'm just going to finish off that cycle with cat-cow pose. So the hands slightly forwards of the shoulders so that your arms are very slightly inclined. Knees beneath the pelvis and the feet and the hips the same distance apart. Feet and knees. Taking in a long breath, letting the belly sink down for a moment. So the shape of the lumbar spine falls in. And we inhale and bring the head forwards, keeping the lower spine in. And as we exhale, we reverse the shape of the spine. So drawing the spine up, pushing through the hands, let the head tuck in and under. Okay, and in breath again. You've only got to let gravity do the work of drawing the belly down. All you do is lift the head and the chest forwards. And then exhaling, lifting and extending the spine up. Inhaling, the gravity does most of the work. Exhale. We'll do this 7 more times. Okay. As you remember, we're going to sit back into child pose, one variation or another, resting the head down, hands down. So the next 10 breaths, we're more or less beginning to now come into the closing part of the practice anyway, but just the next 10 breaths, letting go of the effort through the body and the effort of breathing. So a still point within the practice. Aware of how you find yourself within the practice, both emotionally, physically. Being aware of how mental states, if there are lots of thoughts or very few thoughts, so the nature and tone of the thoughts. But just letting these thoughts that arise, that are insubstantial, go again. So just aware of thought forms, images, memories, etc., but without getting involved. Whatever the stories are, whatever the narratives are, just watch them flow through the mind. Okay, to end this part of the practice now, coming out of this position, I'm going to encourage you to lie over a bolster or a folded up blanket, rolled up blanket rather, or even your yoga mat if you've got nothing else to hand, okay? I'm going to come into a passive reclining pose for 4 or 5 minutes. And just because I can't actually see you very clearly, make sure that when you lie back over whatever you're lying back over, you've got the bolster at the lower part of the shoulder blade, more towards the south part of the shoulder blade, okay? Not in the middle of the shoulder blade, not around the top of the neck, but more down the lower part of the shoulder blade. So that as you lie back, you get this quite organic lifting of the chest. There shouldn't be any uncomfortableness anywhere. Okay? So as long as you get a lifting of the chest and a sense of spreading out across the back of the body, arms out to the side is best, then that's fine. You widen your feet a bit more than your pelvis, that helps the whole body relax down on the floor. I tend to do this after any any back work or lateral work that has been intense, I quite like to just yield over the object. So it just puts things right in the thoracic spine, energetically. And over the course of the next few minutes, just encourage you to do what you can to release. So really letting go. Letting go of the skin on the surface of the body. And letting go of the flesh, the muscles beneath the skin. And letting go of the bones that lie at the center of the body. And your breath now is just normalizing. No need to practice any particular breath technique. Just another minute here. Okay, now if we could just roll to one side and put the unroll the mat or move the bolster out of the way. And then lie back on your back again and take the knees 15 times, practicing Apanasana. So just letting the knees float in towards the body and away again. That's meditation time. To find a posture to sit in, or stay lying down if you really want to. This is where we see our practice of yoga benefiting our meditation practice. It's just one continuous flow of practice, just a slight change of emphasis from working with the body, or working with the mind via the body, to just being present in awareness of the mind. It's just a continuation of the same process of awareness is the principle, awareness is the key. It's just a question of what we do with the awareness in the practice. Okay, so I'm just going to encourage very gentle visualization practice. We've done this before. Just filling your body with awareness, or letting awareness fall down into the body just as the weight of the body falls onto the ground. Making sure that you're as comfortable as you can be. Just feeling the solidity of the earth beneath your body. Taking your awareness to the crown of your head. Imagining a small disc on the crown of the head, 4 or 5 centimeters in diameter. And it's white in color. Now we're going to let this disc turn into a shaft as it enters the body, drops down in front of the spine inside the body. So it's sort of semi-transparent, but of the color of white. It draws down through the body, lengthening. Reaching down to the coccyx. And it's just suspended in the body. And then within this shaft of white light, it begins to expand out in all directions, gradually filling the whole body with a white light, and even extending beyond the body, beyond the physical skin and bone and flesh. The quality of this light is calming and purifying, centering, cleansing. It's like freeing the mind of perturbed states, freeing the body of obstacles. Just let the light be there, extending beyond the body, filling the body. And stay aware of the breath. And we're just toiling, aware of the sense of the breath, aware of this light, aware of the position of the body. Just mindfully experiencing. Again, this white light gently withdraws back into the body. You can feel free to carry on sitting for as long as you want, but I'm just going to guide briefly people out of the practice that want to come out. The light returns to the column of light in front of the spine, and the column of light returns to the top of the head as a small white disc. We can just continue to practice like this, or we can begin to close our practice if we want to. Thank you very much, everybody.